Okay, everybody. This is my audience. Oh, I'm Bryce. This is my audience. Everybody wave. Hello.
My name is Jason Bourne.
Welcome to my cooking show. Okay. Are we ready? If you have the opportunity to spend the day with me, by the end of the day you would know without a doubt that not only am I extremely gorgeous and talented and charming and lovely and all things that are good, but mostly I'm just dairy intolerant. So in reality, most of the things that I do on a daily basis are the same that you do on a daily basis, just without cheese. And I realize that most of you are probably thinking, a day without cheese, that's my personal hell. And I understand that, but I can assure you that with a little bit of patience and a lot of pixie dust, it's really not so bad. As a dairy intolerant human being, I've spent countless hours tasting different nasty food and tasting lots of good food and trying different dairy-free ingredients and recipes and trying to make a life out of the dairy-free. My favorite concoction that I've tried of all being dairy-free white chocolate chip cranberry cookies. Living with a food intolerance coupled with a love for baking isn't easy because most baking recipes include things like dairy ingredients such as milk and butter and cream cheese and so on and so forth. After struggling with being able to find recipes that were good and also dairy-free, I decided to go on an adventure to create my own dairy-free recipes out of normal recipes that people already enjoy. According to the Food Allergy and Research Association in 2016, over 15 million Americans struggle with dairy intolerances or just food allergies in general in the United States. And that number is only increasing. And the Center for Disease Control in 2017 stated that from 1997 to 2011, food allergy preferences amongst adults and children in America increased over 50%, and that's only growing. So that was in 2011 that came out. Due to this startling fact from FAIR, you can see that over, 1 out of 13 people in America have a food allergy or intolerance, and because of this, researchers are stating that it is becoming a more necessary skill set to be able to cook for people who have dairy intolerances or food intolerances in general. So, that being said, my dairy-free soft-baked white chocolate chip cranberry cookies are not only super scrumptious, but are also safe for those who are dairy intolerant. And today I would love to share with you not only how to gather the supplies that you will need, but then to gather the ingredients that you will need and make the amazing cookies. First, we will start out by looking at all the different supplies you will need, and then talking about all the different ingredients you will need, looking at the original recipe, and then talking about how you can take alternative ingredients to make the original recipe safe for people who have dairy intolerances. Now, call me crazy, but typically when I bake, I use things like bowls and spoons. So let's take a look at all the supplies you will need to create your dairy-free recipe. Yay! First, you'll need 2 bowls. Large bowl for the wet ingredients and small bowl for the dry ingredients. Next, you will need an assortment of different measuring cups and spoons, as you will see here, as well as a spatula or a spoon, a pan, a hat if you like hats, an oven mitt, parchment paper, plastic wrap. And that would be great. Okay. Now that you have gathered all the supplies that you will need, let's take a look at the original recipe and see all the different ingredients that you will need, and then talk about the different ingredients that you can use to substitute in for dairy-free alternatives. As you'll see, you will need 3/4 cup of packed brown sugar, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 large egg, as you see here. And that is all of the original ingredients that are safe for dairy intolerant people already. Now, if you look at this recipe, I have already substituted in the dairy-free ingredients, but if you're looking at the original recipe, it would say 3/4 cup of your average butter and 3/4 cup of white chocolate chips. But as you can tell, those things are not safe for those of us who are dairy intolerant and will get a tummy ache. So you can use 3/4 cup of Earth Balance vegan butter. Now, vegans, it is safe to assume that because something is labeled vegan, it is dairy-free, as vegans don't eat animal product, and animal product includes dairy. That being said, I always do recommend to check the label anyways, even if it's labeled vegan, because you just never know. So always check the label, but if something is labeled vegan, as such, here's our butter, you can assume that it is dairy-free and safe for those who are dairy-free. Awesome. You will also need 3/4 cup of dairy-free baking white chocolate chips. And according to the Whole Foods website, they do carry a variety of different dairy-free baking chips that you can use. Awesome. Okay, now that we have all the ingredients and the supplies we need to make these amazing cookies, let's get to baking. Let's start with the large bowl for our wet ingredients. First, you will need 3/4 cup of your Earth Balance butter, and you plop it in your bowl. Just like that. Next, you will add your white granulated sugar. Woo! And now, unless you like to mix with your hands, Kyle, you will need either a spatula, a fork, or a spoon, or an electric mixer to blend it all together. If you're using an electric mixer, I recommend mixing for about 1 minute to make them nice and fluffy. Good enough! Now you will add your brown sugar, packed, and your vanilla, and your 1 egg. Great job! Now that all of your ingredients are combined together, you can take your spoon or spatula or electric mixer and mix them all together until they are evenly combined. Great job, everybody! Now that we have looked at our wet ingredients, let's talk about our dry ingredients. First, you will start with your flour. And you dump all your flour into this small bowl for your dry ingredients. Next, you will add your cornstarch and use a different spoon to mix it all together. Great job. Now you will add your baking soda and your salt and continue to combine with your spoon or electric mixer or your hands until it is all evenly combined. Wonderful! Now that we have our bowl with evenly mixed wet ingredients and evenly mixed dry ingredients, you can the next step is to take the bowl of the wet ingredients and dry ingredients and slowly begin combining them into your wet ingredients. So we'll just spoon this into here a little bit at a time until it is all in there and evenly combined, and it's great. Once you have all the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients, you can stir it all up nice and good until all the ingredients are evenly combined. Once all the ingredients in the big bowl are evenly combined, you will add your craisins and your dairy-free white chocolate chips from Whole Foods or Amazon Pantry. Awesome, excellent. Now, you will continue to stir until the white chocolate chips and cranberries are mixed evenly amongst the dough. Sally's Baking Addiction, the website where this recipe comes from, states that the dough may be a little stiff, but that's okay. And she stated this in 2017. Awesome, now that all the cranberries and white chocolate chips are mixed in the bowl, it is now time to chill our dough. So we're going to first cover with your plastic wrap, and then stick it in the fridge for 2 hours. Now, chilling is a very important process because it helps the dough become more firm and gives it the shape that you would like. I very strongly recommend not skipping the step if at all possible. So make sure that when you have all your dough mixed up, you cover it up with the plastic wrap and stick it in the fridge for 2 hours to 24 hours. Then when the dough is done chilling, you can take it out and let sit for about 15 minutes. This will allow the dough to kind of thaw out, if you will, and will make it easier to scoop out of the bowl and place onto the cookie sheet, which is right here. Right here. So, now that they are ready to put on the cookie sheet, you can scoop it out, and you're going to want to form little dough balls that are about 1/2 inch in diameter. And you place them about 1 to 2 inches apart from each other on the pan. Once you have filled up your pan or cookie sheet with all the dough balls, you'll stick them into the oven. But you have to preheat it first. So preheat your oven first to 350 degrees, and then once the oven is preheated, you can stick the dough balls when they're ready into the oven. One second. Okay. Now that the dough balls are in the oven, you wait about 8 to 10 minutes until they look raised up and firm, but not too brown. Now, it's time to take them out of the oven. Wow! Ooh, don't these cookies look amazing? My dairy-free white chocolate chip cranberry cookies really are not only super scrumptious, but also a safe alternative for those of us with dairy intolerances or food allergies. Today we learned from this recipe all the supplies that we will need to make it, and then all of the ingredients from the original list of ingredients, and then how we can take the dairy ingredients in the recipe and swap them out for dairy-free alternatives to make them safe. And finally, we learned how to make the recipe for ourselves. And man, aren't they scrumptious? Yeah, in a world where the ratio of people with dairy intolerances are on the rise, I am so glad that now all of you have this recipe to be able to cook for those with dairy intolerances. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody want a cookie?
Yes.
Take some
Best speech ever.
Does anybody have any questions? Is it still on? Does anybody have any questions? Oh, and this is my audience still. Everyone's still here.
We can leave.
Waiting for the cookies. Yes, Maddie.
When did you become dairy intolerant?
I've been dairy intolerant my whole life, but I did not know I was dairy intolerant until I was in middle school. So that was quite the adventure. Yeah. Anybody else?
How often do you bake these cookies?
These cookies are my absolute favorite cookies to bake of all the cookies in the world. So I bake them a lot. Yeah. Jeff.
What are some other dairy ingredients that you come across that are like sometimes tough to substitute out?
Yeah, so dairy-free alternatives, one of them is like cream cheese is hard sometimes because they make dairy-free cream cheese, but it's really expensive. And so then you think it's probably easier just to make something else and not have to deal with buying dairy-free cream cheese. Yeah. And cottage cheese, if you're like making lasagna and stuff. I have not found an alternative to cottage cheese. Yes.
Is dairy-free cream cheese good?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't really remember what real cream cheese tastes like, but I think it's good. Yeah, I don't know.
It is.
Yeah. My mom says it is, so yeah, cool. Well, thank you, everybody. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.